I have my best thoughts whilst I'm driving, so I'm just gonna like spit fire. High ceiling. We're back in it. I want to explain how it formed, like the concept formed in my head. It came from two different trajectories. The first one being the big 5 personality traits of psychology, those being conscientiousness, openness, agreeableness, extroversion, and neuroticism. Conscientiousness and openness are the ones that are really relevant to this discussion, so I'll explain what those are. Conscientiousness is sort of worker bee mode, people's ability to follow instructions, and people who really enjoy ticking off tasks on a to-do list, plugging in numbers into a formula. Worker bees, they are the gears in the machine. They are the 90% of like the people that keep the structure, they uphold the structure of society. They're really important, and they enjoy just kind of being told what to do, having a stability, having a structure. Now, openness is the opposite of this. Openness technically means open to experience. 7% of the population score above 75% in openness. Openness falls into 2 categories. There's the creative side and the intellectual side that are defined by creativity being defined by proclivity to chase aesthetic experiences, and intellectual side defined by interest in idea-based conversations, abstract thinking, conceptual discussions, etc. Those are true intellectuals. Now, what I mean by this, because we're going to talk about how depth and how high ceilingness intersects with intelligence, and how they are they're not the same thing, but there is overlap. Now, our modern day understanding of what the word intelligence has come to mean is really a high level of conscientiousness. It is a book smart, rote memorization type of intelligence. It works on a linear, 2-dimensional plane, in that intelligence in our society, the intelligence that is celebrated and the intelligence that we correlate with success, is a collection of data points across this axis. Now, what I'm talking about is depth. See how it's like a separate axis? I'm talking about 3-dimensional thinking. That is more aligned with the openness definition of intellect, which is lateral thinking. Now, people who are creatively open and intellectual open have, or anyone who's open really, have this thing where they can, if this is your map of reality, they can, like sort of this liquid octopus-like being, they can expand their map of reality. They can think and expand their ways of thinking at an infinite level. Whereas, and this is really sad when I heard this, and you feel free to correct me if I'm wrong, because I don't want to believe it either, but when I watched these lectures, I learned that if you don't score high in openness, in fact, if you're really low in openness, your ability to change your map of reality and expand that is really minimal, really low, almost like stagnant. Like, people actually can't be open-minded, and this is biologically ingrained, your personality traits, and how your percentage scores of them and how much you have of each. They're biologically ingrained, so you can't change them, unfortunately. You are who you are, and that's okay. And we need different mixes of these personalities in society, and the diversity is actually what creates a well-functioning society. Now, I'm going to talk about openness. Open people, 7% of which score above 75%. Now, these are like the true open people. They are the innovators in society. They don't belong in the system or the structure. They are best on the outskirts of the system and structure, actually creating and expanding the said system and structure. That's their place. So if you think of society as this sort of like walled Maze Runner, kind of like walled like system and structure. The conscientious people exist inside. They're turning the cogwheels. They are building within that structure. And the open people need to stand on the high walls, looking out into the black abyss and intuiting through art and science. Art and science are yin and yang, masculine to feminine. They work side by side, hand in hand with each other, in that both are looking into the unknown and both are trying to encapsulate what the intangible, the inexplicable, into material substance, i.e. either art or science. So that's where open people belong. The issue is, though, we don't have like a very good, there are like personality tests for this, but like we don't have a very like solid metric on how to measure openness as opposed to all of the other categories. And because open people are like rarer, because if you think about it, if we had all open people, we wouldn't have society running. We don't want too many open people, because if everything's an innovation, then none of it counts, it cancels out. So basically, if we can figure out a really solid test for this for people at a young age, my dream is that we can plop the open kids into their own kind of special school and like have them kind of train with each other, study with each other, and have mentors that can like nurture this skill about them, because it's a really useful skill that I believe we're not capitalizing on enough as a society. And I think that there are a lot of genius, not saying that we're genius, okay, like let's get that straight, but I'm saying that basically what I'm saying is that everyone has the capacity and everyone is a deep person. People are incredible. Humans are incredible. Humans are brilliantly complex and deep, and they have these deep experiences, but not everyone can think deeply, and that's what I'm saying. I'm saying that depth is a talent, it's a skill. No, not a skill, because you're born with it. It's a talent that is not recognized in our society, because we live in a quantity versus quality society, and depth is quality, and we live in so depth is not a focus in our society. It's not it's not actually like rewarded, so there's no incentive to be deep, even within academia, because academia, up until like the very high ends of it, academia is highly conscientiously driven. So it's very like, there are a lot of people who have PhDs who aren't deep. I'll put it that way. They're incredibly detailed and conscientious way, but depth is different. And my issue is that we don't have a separate measurement or a separate word, or don't recognize depth as a separate thing of intelligence. They're two different things. And the next thing that I'm going to speak about is what's and whys. So what's and whys is a theory that I kind of like made into itself, inspired by my ex-boss's comment towards me, which is, he was teaching me how, different people, as a manager, you have to like manage people differently, and one of the things that he does is he identifies in a person early whether they are a what or a why person. He used the example for himself. For example, I am a what person, as in I don't really care why we're doing something, but if you tell me what to do, I'll just do it. So highly conscientious, right? Whereas he was like, I think you're a why person. He said, I think I can get the most out of you when I tell you not only what you're doing, but why you're doing it, and then you'll be more heavily invested. The work will get done better, faster, and at a higher quality. And so you're a why person. And then that got me stewing into this concept that I created, what's and whys, which is basically, you know how I was saying before, how intelligence in the societal way is measured linearly across this plane and is a collection of just data points? Think about it this way. you're collecting what points of information, right? Now, what am I doing that's different to that is I go, what, why? What, why? What, why? And I'm thinking through every single thing to the bedrock of each concept. And for my entire life, I have thought that I've been slow or like dumb, and I've been told, even by my institution and my like very emotionally abusive brown people after school tuition tutors, that I'm dumb because I'm not fast and I'm not keeping up with the speed of everyone's what's that are very surface level, and they're collecting information on a surface level and going really quickly what linearly, and I am still stuck on the last why of the last what, if that makes sense. So I'm going what why while they've done 3 whats. Does that make sense? So basically I'm not slow, I'm just depth focused. So I'm trying to figure out how I can be faster with my depth so that I can like keep up with the societal kind of like norm of playing linearly. But because I don't want to compromise my depth, I enjoy my depth because it makes like everything that I experience really really colorful and extra vibrant, because I'm really like indulging in the nuances of every detail. So I don't want to compromise that purely for my own enjoyment. However, I do recognize that I need to keep up with society in order to like live and function within this society and also be perceived as valuable. And this is like the sad and frustrating thing. As a depth-focused person, as a high-ceiling person, you're going to find yourself frustrated and isolated because your gift is not valued. Now, a whole bunch more things I need to say on this topic. The second being, okay, so I've gone down the tangent of like how it was formed on one aspect. The other aspect of how it was formed, I'm going to credit in the comments, in my caption, who came up with the actual term high ceiling. So basically, you know, that openness stuff, the big 5 personality traits things. Once I found that lecture series and I figured all this stuff out, I was mind blown. It made me realize that I had been feeling misunderstood and been keeping company with people who didn't share my thinking style. And so of course I'm going to feel misunderstood. So I went to like one of my few friends that I knew was like me and that I really resonated with, and I told her this thing and I was so excited to share it with her, and she's like, oh my goodness, this is exactly like what my therapist was talking about, because I was going to her about my frustration about this, about feeling like I fully, deeply understand everyone else, and it's like they can never reciprocate that, or they don't understand what I'm saying. And the therapist said that, she was like, oh yes, you have a high ceiling. And she's like, what's that? Therapist says that she has invented this term for herself, and also to explain, you know, the people around her as well as some of her special clients, that it's almost as though your mind is like a skyscraper, or like the ceiling is limitless. There's no like, versus a low ceiling person who has like maybe a 1-story building kind of mind. And it's the sad truth that like some people are capped, or some people are capped. We all have a ceiling height, and you can only perceive to how tall your ceiling height is. And that's kind of it's a really nice analogy because it accounts for depth, and depth also accounts for objectivity. So think of how far out you could zoom out if you were looking down from the top of a skyscraper versus a 1-story building. So that's it's just such a fantastic analogy, which is why I enjoy that term, high ceiling versus depth, because it kind of gives you a visual. And and so anyway, then the next thing that I have to say is that, so I did some digging. There isn't much of this online. People don't talk about this. It's sort of this thing that I don't think people ever really have thought deeply about. But the one book that I did find on this topic was Eric Meisel's book called Why Smart People Hurt. Now, he convolutes depth for smartness. I disagree with him when it comes to, he thinks that we're just smarter than other people. I don't think so. I don't think I'm smart. I struggled in school. I struggled in uni. I dropped out of my uni degree. Like, I'm not smart by societal standards. And yeah, there's a bit of a chip on my shoulder there as well. So you got to account for the fact that, like, I'm biased because, like, I've been made to feel dumb my entire life as well. So it's, like, hard to tell whether, like, I am actually dumb or not. Like, I will wear that. It's okay. Like, I have other talents. Like, it doesn't make me less valuable. If I'm a little dumb, it's fine. But Eric Meisel, basically, he calls it smart, which is what I don't agree with. But everything else in his book, I totally agree with, and it aligns so well, so miraculously well with my high ceiling theory, which, by the way, I developed in my own time, aside from him. And then I read this book, and I was like, oh, he's saying what I'm saying, but just in another way. So what he basically says is that smart people actually have a bigger appetite for meaning, and that's what makes them smart. So for us, like high ceiling people, depth focused people, whatever you want to call it, we need a day in our day, like we need 90% of our day to be meaningful. Whereas your 9 to 5 kind of average, like conscientious low ceiling person, they need like maybe 10% of their day to be meaningful. So 9 to 5, they can work and, you know, like have like good chats at work, but like nothing necessarily